All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our October MVAC, the last MVAC of the year. The one after this will be in January of 2025. I'm John. I'm a planner at DOT. I'm here with a lot of our staff as well, and we're going to give you guys some exclusive updates on some of our projects. Okay. All right, so going over the quick agenda, we have some general agency updates involving some brand new staff on our team, and we have some very great updates for our projects as well. Some of those include the MLK side path, the Wolf and Washington, the Big Jump, and the Greenway trails, and some others also. Okay, for this part of the updates, we're gonna have Alan Robinson give his updates here.
Thank you very much, John. I do appreciate that. And once again, yes, thank you all for joining us this evening. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to sit down with us to kind of go over some of the progress that has been made and to give you an opportunity and a forum to ask any questions regarding some other information that may be out there. So, as we talked about, and we've been talking about this for a little while, we are still looking for commissioners. We will accept applications until all vacancies are filled. And basically, if you look at the information here, my email is provided at allen.drobinson@baltimorecity.gov. We're asking that you'll go ahead and fill out the application, and you can email that to me and let me know that you are interested. And there is a process in which we will be going through it in order to vet those folks who will be, that we will be tapping to join. If you can go to the next slide for me, John. All right, so let's talk about the MBAC membership a little bit. So it is comprised of 14 members and is required to be appointed members representative of the following groups and interests. So we're looking for subject matter experts, some folks from the health community, the business community, city government, advocacy groups, and city residents, especially in the underrepresented communities. So if you think you fall under that, after reviewing the actual application link, which will be available throughout this event, as well as after once we post all of the notes for today's meeting, please feel free to apply, and we will be more than happy to get started with the interview process to bring some folks on board and be ready to roll for our January 2025 gathering.
Okay, thank you, Alan. So next we have some community updates. I think we're gonna have Sean go over those. And I think we did have a question from Ellen. I'm not sure if she still had one.
Yes, I do have a question regarding the board members. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, okay. When I FOIA'd for the board member list a few months ago, there were 9 members that 9 positions vacant. Can you give me an update on how many are still vacant? Has any one of them been filled?
So I'll speak to that a little bit. So at this time, because there's been some updates and improvements within the agencies, we do not have all of those updated yet, but I can share with you, I'm pretty sure I do have your email address, and I will follow up with you this week to let you know exactly which ones are filled. However, we are still looking for at-large members. So internally, we're going to handle our part as making sure that we have our agency representatives on there. But what I am focused on now are our community members, the subject matter experts, these folks from the health community, business community, and so on. So the city government piece, we'll take care of that, and I can share that information with you. But what we're focusing on right now are those folks at large. So I've dropped my email into the chat for those folks who want to reach out to me directly. If you have any questions on the process, feel free to do so, and we will move forward accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there's more than one card. Here, take that.
Okay, so now for the community updates. Sean, are you there?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Hmm.
I want to start by apologizing. My camera is not working today. So forgive me for speaking from a dark box. We have a couple of community events upcoming. The Station North Tool Library Fix-It Fair is on November 16th. That's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 417 East Oliver Street. We also have the Baltimore Bike Party coming up. That's November 29th at 7 p.m. The meetup this month will be at St. Mary's Park at 600 North Paca Street. I want to also extend an opportunity to Jed. If you're here and you want to give a little more colorful detail about the annual Cranksgiving race.
I am on a bus to the airport in Milwaukee, but sure, I can try. Thanksgiving is our annual event where we basically have an alley cat race where hundreds of riders race to different grocery stores across the city, pick up food, and then deliver that food to the Franciscan Center of Movable Feast. So it's a great way to support Baltimore as a fundraiser, but also support local food partners and get food to folks in need during Thanksgiving season. And so you go to bikemore.net/Thanksgiving, you can register. There's 5 days for early bird registration, which is what helps Bikemore the most. So please check it out and register. We did this pretty good city team with it. So Sean, maybe we'll see you there.
Maybe. So I believe this year there are also two prizes, as I understand it, for pre-registering. There's a very, very cool hat that has been designed by a local artist, and I believe that there's a T-shirt with this poster's art on it. So very cool, very great. I think I might have participated very long ago in the first one of these, and so this has been going strong. So we're excited. I think we can move to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm very excited as well for that. Next, we have the Rec and Parks updates. I know we have Kate Brower here, and maybe somebody else. Oh, I think we have one more community event from East Coast Greenway. Okay.
Hi there. Yeah, this is Daniel Pascal with the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Just wanted to share an event that I've been just kind of jumped onto at the last second to help plan. But this is led by Friends of Jones Falls and Rails to Trails and a number of community groups having a festival along the Jones Falls Trail and Falls Road, which will be closed down by the Streetcar Museum. So I wanted to flag that coming up on Saturday.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so I think someone's here from BCRP to go over this slide.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Tim Howell. I'm the new trail manager with BCRP. I just came on in August of this year. So I just wanted to highlight some trail updates that we had here throughout our trail systems with Baltimore City Recreation Parks. We've mainly begun transitioning our work from our summer vegetation cutbacks to leaf blowing and leaf collection. And we continue to close trail-related SRs. Dumping continues to be one of those major issues that we work with our maintenance staff to close. We also completed a walkthrough on October 8th with Forward Teeter and Parks and People to highlight some remaining punch list improvements from the Gwens Falls Trail project. So hopefully some more to come on that. The main thing I wanted to highlight, though, is that our trails team is growing. As I mentioned, I'm the new trail manager. I started in August, and we now have 5 new employees. And my email address is right up there on the slide as well. If anyone needs to reach out for anything trail related with BCRP. So thank you all.
I think we have Kate here from BCRP.
Yes, hi. Excuse me, my camera is not working, so sorry about that. So I'm going to give you an update on Solo Gibbs Park. We are at 60% completion on the construction documents for the park, we have added the splash pad to the design in phase 1. It was originally going to be developed with the recreation center in phase 2. But given the strong desire of community members to have a splash pad up and running sooner rather than later, we added it to phase 1. And that's resulted in a bit of a slowdown because we need to get a aquatics consultant on board. And we are close to doing that. So I'm happy to say that we're just trying to finalize the proposal, and then that will go through the approval process. So we're waiting for that. So the plans, if people are not familiar with the park master plan, which was completed in, I believe, 2020, we will be widening the existing Gwynns Falls Trail, which is known as the Sharp Street Promenade. And if you can see at the top of this plan, you can see Sharp Street. And if you continue over to the right, that is where the existing Gwynns Falls Trail is, but we will be widening it and making it more prominent. We will be realigning the basketball courts, pushing them further down away from the trail, and changing up the sort of order of the courts there. We will be expanding an existing playground on the north side, if you can see that. We renovated the existing playground, and we will be expanding that as part of phase 1. We will also be putting in a pavilion, and this plan actually is the older version. Because we changed the splash pad, as you can see, which is located on the left side of the screen here, that is going to be moved to where the playground, it says fenced playground on the right-hand side. That's going to be where the splash pad will be, and the playground will be where the splash pad is in this image. So maybe next time we'll have an updated image there. We are anticipating, so we got a cost estimate. It turned out that it was more expensive than we had initially imagined it would be, and it looks like with some negotiations, it looks like we will be funded at the start of fiscal year 26. So it's really delaying the project only by a few months. So we anticipate to advertise in the fall or summer, early fall of next year, to start construction in the late fall, winter for phase 1.
Okay, yes, thank you. We do have a question.
Will the Sharp Street Promenade continue along Sharp Street? Well, that's where the current trail is. So yes, I mean, we're not changing anything on the Sharp Street itself, but we're widening the existing trail in the park. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Sorry. There's where the Sharp Street starts, like the vehicular part of it. It looks like the promenade becomes the sidewalk. And I just didn't know if it was just like as it currently is, where you just go out onto the street, or if it would continue along that sidewalk.
Yeah, you can go onto the sidewalk, I believe. I mean, I think probably that will be, I'm not sure. I'll have to look in the current designs as to where that, in this phase 1, where that sidewalk portion continues or doesn't.
Gotcha. And it looks like in the chat, there's going to be an update later on too about solo gives.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I think we have one hand raised from Chris.
I actually had a question about trail clearing in general. The Herring Run Trail between Armistead Gardens and Shannon or Sinclair, technically there's a like labeled trail through that portion of Herring Run Park. I've never been able to particularly find it. It's kind of like bushwhacking going through there. Is that something that BCRP is going to look into clearing out? Or do you guys not even know where the trail technically is there?
Hey,
Because
Chris.
that's going to be part of the Greenway Trail.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Tim.
Chris. This is Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Hi. If you just want to send me an email to my email address, I could put it in the chat, and we can get
Okay.
back to you regarding that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward here, we have some updates on our new staff. I'll let Sean take the helm.
Hi, everybody. So some of you may remember me from when I worked with Alan in the mayor's office as the assistant deputy mayor for economic and community development. The good news is that now I get to keep working with Alan, but through the context of my new role as the planning chief for DOT, I have lived in Baltimore City on and off since 2013. I got both of my master's degrees from the University of Michigan. And previously I was the commissioner of transportation for a city in Ohio. And then I worked for the mayor's office for a period of time. So I'm really excited to be back at DOT. I was here, less than 10 years ago. I'll try not to date myself too bad. But I'm really excited about this role. I'm really excited about this new team we've got. And I'm excited about all the projects that we're going to get done next year. So I think we're going to kind of move through introductions for a number of the new employees. Is that right, John?
Yes. We'll go
Great.
to the next slide here.
Hi everyone, Ethan McLeod, joined Baltimore City DOT several months ago. I'm managing a few different projects for the agency, including some that I'll talk about today, a couple Greenway Trail segments on Boston Street in Canton and the Middle Branch to Inner Harbor segment that we've been working on for a while. I'm also assisting with grants and a few other projects here in the city. I spent a couple years working for WSP before this as a consulting transportation planner, including for Baltimore City as well as MTA and MDOT. A lot of my work was focused on grants and securing capital funding for big projects. A little bit more education info. I went to American and was a reporter for a number of years, news reporter and news editor, including here in town for about 6-7 years, and made a switch into planning a couple years ago during the pandemic. I got into transportation, working as a graduate fellow for the Eno Center, and I haven't stopped. So thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about my projects.
Hi, all. My name is May Hanslick. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the new planners here as well. I joined in September. I'll be doing project management for a variety of different biking and walking and rolling projects, including working with Ethan on the Greenway Trails Network, Big Jump, Washington Cycles Track, projects like that. Before I joined DOT, I was at Alta Planning and Design, where I was working on Vision Zero and safety action plans, as well as a couple active transportation plans. And before that, I spent a good amount of time at Smart Growth America, working on all things complete streets, as well as some placemaking and smart cities things. My background is in public health. I went to Hopkins as part of the Bloomberg American Health Initiative, which brought me to Baltimore, which I'm so grateful for because I think this is a fabulous city and I'm really looking forward to serving it in this role. You can also see in my photo that was me last year in the spirit of Halloween, dressed up as my favorite planter in Baltimore, which you can find in Reservoir Hill. So nice to meet all of you.
Hi, I think I'm next. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is John Hilligus. I'm the newest planner here at the Department of Transportation. I'm very excited to be working with this team. I spent the last 5 years at an organization called the Greater Washington Partnership, which included a lot of work in the Baltimore area, focused on all forms of transportation, from transit to our support at the time for the Baltimore Greenway. So I'm excited to be on this call. I think the most important thing in my life, which you can probably see in the pictures, is my 2 little twin girls that were born at the beginning of the year. And that's been a wild journey, as I'm sure you might be able to imagine for those who've gone through the experience.
Hey everybody. So some of you might already be familiar with me from the micromobility committee meeting we held earlier in October, but I am Tyler Smith. I am the city's new dockless vehicle program manager, which basically means I work with Spin and Lime on making sure they are complying with the rules and regulations of the program for the scooters and e-bikes that you see around the city. I am from Baltimore. Went to William and Mary, was a bike courier in Washington, D.C. for about 5 years, and then jumped from there over to working for Motivate and Alta, different owners for the Capital Bike Share program down there. Started as a field bike mechanic, managed that team, did about 45,000 inspections of bicycles down there, and wrote our chapter on how to inspect the bikes down there. A couple other training materials as well. Later on, I became the manager for the stations, so I was also involved with the installation of over 200 stations, and also managing the team that kept the stations in good repair. And I am also the mechanical sweeper of the Baltimore Bike Party, as well as some of you guys see on the screen, other volunteers. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into some of our micromobility slides that are pertinent to bicycles. With Lime being a new operator in the city, we saw the number of bicycles in the ground take a big jump up to an average of 605 in this past quarter, whereas before then we were around 200 or so. So if you are noticing a lot more bikes on the street, that's because there are a lot more bikes on the street, and we are looking forward to expanding that number even further down the line. Next slide, please. In the last year, we've seen dockless vehicle trips, increase seasonally, which is not surprising, of course. In 2024, we had about 26,000 average weekly trips happening out there. Similarly, you see a bit of an uptick in the number of bicycle rides. That's the bottom line there, since the new operator came in with a lot more bikes. Next slide, please. Utilization is a pretty good metric for determining, are the vehicles being used out there. And what you're looking at is an orange line for the scooters, and you're looking at a blue line for the bicycles. So a utilization metric is rides per vehicle per day. And as you can see, the scooters get used at a higher rate, about 1.73 rides per day per scooter in the last quarter. The bikes are at a lower rate of 0.81 rides per day per bicycle. So that is the utilization. Next slide, please. We were just given a public-facing map of all the dockless vehicles routes. So what you're looking at here is a heat map with higher numbers of routes in black and the lower numbers of routes toward light orange and yellow. This is now embedded on the dockless vehicle Baltimore City Department of Transportation webpage, and you should feel free to play around with it. You can change the settings. You can look back to 2019 and through today to see where the vehicles are being ridden. This is based off the GPS heartbeats that each scooter and e-bike sends sends out saying, here I am, I'm in use, I'm going here. So this is just another resource for transparency with the public on where our vehicles are being ridden and where they are filling in gaps in the transportation network. Next slide, please. So we've got about 35 scooters recovered off the streets of Baltimore. Big thanks to towing and maintenance for that effort. It is not easy to go looking for these things based off sometimes less detailed reports than others. We really appreciate everyone out there who has been making reports. Those are very helpful. And if there are still scooters somewhere you have already made a report at, that makes sense, please resubmit that report so that we can go back and look again. It's possible that we've missed some of them. So if you are seeing one out there and it's still there, please make another report. We really appreciate that. I'm seeing a question from David. Do you know why we can't park scooters at the old scooter docking space at the West Baltimore MARC station? I do not know. That is news to me. Let me look into that, David. And if you don't mind dropping your email address in the chat, or I can put mine in there, feel free to hit me up so I can find a way to follow up with you.
Sure, I'll do that. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this?
Yeah, I was gonna say, any more questions from the staffing or from this before we move forward?
Cool. Thanks for your time, everybody.
Okay.
My hand was up.
Oh yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Ellen Worthing speaking. This is a question for Tyler Smith. I have been keeping track of what's going on both nationally and internationally with some of the dockless vehicle rental programs. So I'm kind of wondering what this city is doing to get additional e-bikes, which seem to be preferred over scooters, maybe not in Baltimore, but definitely nationally or internationally. Also, can we get some cargo bikes to rent? And the other question I have is, I'm seeing, as I ride around town, I'm seeing an awful lot of food delivery workers that are using e-bikes. Can we get some kind of battery switch out stations like New York City has?
Okay. So to the first question, what are we doing to encourage more bikes on the ground? You know, last July is when we were able to welcome a new operator that brought an additional 500 bikes to the city's system. We are encouraging operators to consider bringing more bikes. They have to weigh that against the profitability of having bikes on the street, which is where that utilization metric comes back into play, right? So, you know, if the bikes see more use, the companies will realize more profits and will look into investing and bringing in more bikes to bear. But the city is also like looking, we do take opportunities to incentivize adding more bikes to the fleet when the operators come to us with requests. I remember the last thing you mentioned was the swap out battery sort of stations. I'm familiar with what those are, but I have not had on my radar whether those will be coming to Baltimore or not. That is something I will have to look into. And I think you had a question in the middle there I might not have addressed. Is that, can you remind me what that was, please?
Cargo bikes.
Cargo bikes. I'm not aware of that being offered by either of our operators at this time. So no, that is not something that is on the horizon to my knowledge, but I will be on the lookout for it.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Are there any other questions for me?
No, thank you.
Most welcome.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So next on the agenda is just a quick update on the BMC's Bikeable Regional Network Plan. I think we have Charlene here today.
Yeah, I'm Charlene Mingus. I'm the active transportation planner at Baltimore Metropolitan Council, the Baltimore Region's Metropolitan Planning Organization. And so starting in December 2023, we kicked off this project to identify a regional bike network, the first one for the Baltimore region, working with our local jurisdictions, the public and the state So the vision for it is to have the Baltimore region work together to create a bike network that expands opportunities for users of all ages and abilities. And the connected network will support improved safety, mobility, equitable access to jobs, schools, housing, transit, parks, and other daily destinations. And then some of the project goals are below: advancing equity, connecting people to places, considering context, emphasizing collaboration, improving safety and accessibility, maintaining the network, setting attainable ambition, so making sure we're properly funding, what we're planning, and supporting community development, as well as supporting environmental and health benefits. So I'm coming today to give an update. Because we have a comment period that's going to start, we had our first comment period in the spring/summer of this year. So we took that feedback and used that to identify a proposed regional bike network, working closely with our local jurisdictions and our advisory and steering committee members, some of which who are here today. So we're getting ready to present that proposed regional bike network to the public starting in early November, running until January 10th. So next slide. Just a little recap of what we got feedback-wise from the public from that first comment period. We had 10 public meetings throughout the region, 249 comments received, 163 survey responses, and then we held 61 on-site community interviews during that comment period and supplemented that with another 73, I believe, in October. So trying to get people who don't tend to come to public meetings, getting a more diverse representation from the community. 93% of people reported that a regional bike network is important to them, and 92% said they like the vision. Of the goals that I presented earlier, the top 3 that came up were improving safety and accessibility, connecting people to places, and maintaining the network. We know, based on national research and what's come out through other regions and other cities, people feel safe biking in more separated locations, like a path, shared use path, or a protected bike lane. So we asked people in this region to kind of track to make sure that's following the national trends, and it did. So people feel safer on a side path or a shared use path, protected bike lane. And then, fourth, on a low speed road, like a neighborhood kind of road with a standard bike lane, and then other roads with higher speeds and more lanes, being not very comfortable for most people. Next slide. We asked people what they like about biking in the region right now. So some of the top themes that came out were infrastructure and connectivity, scenic and safe routes, community health benefits, and practical benefits, which are, it's easier to park if I'm biking, it costs less, it's quicker for some people. And then we asked people what are the barriers to biking currently. Majority of people said the lack of comfortable bike lanes and paths is a barrier. Then people feeling unsafe biking in traffic and not having a safe place to park their bike. And then we asked people what would make a regional bike network a success to them. So some of these themes are repeating, but safety and protection, connectivity and continuity, accessibility for all users, maintenance and cleanliness, integration with public transit, driver education and awareness, and the economic recreational benefits, as well as inclusivity and community engagement. Next slide. So what's coming up is this presenting phase where we're going to present the proposed regional bike network and get feedback from the community so that we can update that based on that input. Like I said, it'll run November 1st to January 10th. We'll have an interactive website, online survey, an online comment map. We're also going to have an in-person public meeting December 10th. It's going to be at the Baltimore Unity Hall, and then we're going to have a virtual meeting December 12th. And so that down there is the project website. Right now, it directs you to the first comment period website, but starting November 1st, it'll direct you to this new phase. So next slide. So this is kind of a sneak peek. That's the work in progress map. I know you can't see a lot. A lot of changes were made since this map was kind of put together. But one thing we're doing is looking at what are these kind of like high level regional connections, what are kind of secondary connections that connect communities between those areas, and then what are local connections to get people from their homes and jobs to activity areas. And then you can see in the kind of yellow circles or ovals, those are areas that have been identified as not having any existing or planned bike facilities that would be comfortable or low stress. So that's an opportunity for us to work with local jurisdictions in the future to try to identify connections. So next slide. So I think that's pretty much a quick overview. There's a lot there, but all this will go into much greater detail on the project website and our interactive story map. And then of course, we'll have the in-person and virtual public meeting as well to get in, to have conversations with people and get some feedback. Let's see, Jed asked if the Key Bridge has been included. I'm not sure it was included as a gap, Jed, but I will look and see, because currently there are no planned or existing bike facilities there per local master plans, but that definitely would be something that I think could be identified as a gap.
And then a question from Ellen as well.
Yeah, and Daniel makes a good point. This coincides with the state's Maryland Trails Plan update that they're doing. So we're coordinating with them, and I'm on the steering committee with them to try to make sure that we're speaking back and forth to each other and making sure they reflect each other's work. So I think it's a really good opportunity to work together with the state on this.
Yeah, I have a question, Ellen
Yes.
Worthing again. It's very nice that you're making all these wonderful plans and maps. When can we actually see a whole network spacing out into Baltimore County that might be useful for city residents?
Mm-hmm. So one of the next steps after we do this comment period and update the regional bike network, we're going to then take it and look at feasibility, cost, different elements, and then create an implementation plan. So it would be short-term, mid-term, and long-term recommendations on when things will be built. So that'll outline what is kind of going to create that network. The hope with this effort is there are a lot of bike and shared use facilities planned throughout the region, but identifying kind of the priorities in the region can help kind of focus efforts and funding. So we're hoping this will accelerate those connections, because we definitely have heard, you know, continuity and connectivity is a major concern within the region.
Yes, but when are we going to get shovels in soil? Like a date?
We don't have a date for that.
Okay, cool. Moving on to the project updates, where a lot of our hardy info is in. I know that's what all of you've been waiting for. First up is the e-bike voucher program update.
Hey everyone, been working on this as well. So we launched a pilot lottery for helping Baltimore City residents purchase e-bikes from local bike shops. There are going to be 30 recipients that get the $2,000 income qualified voucher. There will be 20 recipients for the 750 standard vouchers. So 50 total vouchers. We have selected them by lottery. The e-bikes have to be bought from the 3 local participating bike shops, which is Joe's, Baltimore Bicycle Works, and Trek. A couple locations for Baltimore Bicycle Works and Trek. Applications were open from September 24th to October 10th, and 43% of the applicants made the income qualifications, and the winners will be announced imminently, like within a few days from now. Any questions on that? Yes, Ellen.
I have a question. Ellen Worthing again. Okay, you guys did great on the voucher rollout. I know it was sort of a small program. What are the plans for a much larger rollout that to include many more Baltimore City residents?
That remains to be seen. I can tell you a lot of folks here would be excited to pursue such a thing, but the political will to get that through Baltimore City government is what we'll have to see how that goes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we have one more question in the chat before I move forward.
How many people applied? A lot. I don't have the exact number in front of me right now. Let me try to get back to you on that.
Okay. All right. So, one more question.
Is there a date by which the vouchers will be awarded? There is not a date, but it is, the word imminent is accurate.
Awesome. Okay, so for the next update, it's the Bike and Ped Count program. So we have rolled out 14 bike counters throughout the city. I've spoke to all of you about this before. Every 2 years, we have to change the bike counter batteries. So we've worked very hard in the field. We have updated the website and we've cleaned all the info on the website. Sometimes when there's construction around a bike counter, it will make the info either go up or down, and it won't be as accurate. So we have a subscription with Eco Counter, a company out of Montreal, Canada, and they help us clean all of it and kind of keep our website active. And then I want to give a shout out to DOT employee Darnell Harris. He helped me on every single bike counter. There's him in the field in both of these images here. And yeah, I couldn't thank him enough for his hard work on this. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
It's nice that you put in these bike counters. Just taking that to the next level, is there any way that Baltimore might mimic Cumberland, which has just installed free charging stations for people on e-bikes? Yeah, people can use to recharge.
Hey,
This
John,
is
I can answer that. So, Ms. Worthing, right now, we haven't constructed any kind of price quoting or had conversations about where we would locate such items. So right now, talking about anything like that would be a bit premature. However, we have noted your interest, and I think that what we can do is look into it on our side for future implementation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. I think just the last thing here, going forward, we hope to have a phase 2 of this program. We have the funds currently. We're trying to figure out which bike lanes are the most suitable going forward. So that's going to be our next step, is to probably install, I hope, around 20 in total. We have 14 right now, maybe around 20, 25 or so. So I'll definitely keep all of you updated on that going forward. And I think on Pratt as well would be a very solid idea. Okay, we have the MLK side path update.
Yeah, thanks, John. Hey, everybody. My name is Brendan Latimer. I'm going to go over the updates for MLK side path, and just to sort of reorient everybody to the extents of this project. It goes from Reed Street and MLK in the north near Cultural Center, Light Street, Light Rail Station, to Ostend and MLK in the south near M&T Bank Football Stadium. And so where we are right now with this project is developing a scope of work for the consultant to move forward with plans to not only rehabilitate the bricks and the pavement along that area, but also introduce some complete streets elements to make intersections to align with the Complete Streets Manual. So that is sort of where we are right now. We're projected to complete this or to begin construction at the end of 2025. And we will have 60% designs submitted, hopefully by the end of January. And throughout that process, we will also be hosting some community meetings. So stay tuned for that next year. And I will open up to any questions if there are any.
Question from
Yes.
Chris.
Chris.
Hey, I'm not sure about the scope of the project or anything, so just stop me if this is like something you're already doing, but I think it's not a stretch for most people here to understand that the way that this road was constructed was a huge mistake or an abomination, basically, on the city, and really cut off West Baltimore from the downtown area. It's very difficult to cross if you're not in a car. Very dangerous. And has there been any consideration about a just like complete clean sheet redesign of it to make it not a Strode? I drove on it today because I was working over in Pigtown, just to the west of it, and it amazes me to see how difficult it is to watch people cross the street there, how dangerous it is, and just how poorly motorists drive on this road.
Sure, Chris. So those are obviously they're good points. We have concerns about MLK. There's no plan at this time for any kind of comprehensive corridor reconstruction. As you can probably guess, that would be a very expensive, very long project. However, we do have a number of different projects that are within the footprint of MLK that are meant to try and remediate some of the concerns you pointed out. Mr. Latimer is working on the West Baltimore Unite project, which will have some impacts on MLK. And then this side path project will attempt to try and create some safer pedestrian and multimodal alternatives to MLK.
And I also, thanks, Sean, for that. I also, someone also asked for the 30% design documents in the chat. If anybody wants to email me about this project or the West Baltimore United project, feel free to shoot me an email at that address that I dropped in the chat.
Okay. Any more questions before I move forward?
I believe Fran had their hand up. You still have a question, Fran?
Oh, hi, sorry, I just put in the chat. I'm Fran Weld, I'm new to town. Nice to meet you guys. I've been a little depressed since moving here about how horrible the biking and pedestrian conditions are, so it's really wonderful to see a group of dedicated people working on it. Thank you all so much. I just put in the chat, but I think the planning department has a new update to the comprehensive master plan that does address MLK and re-knitting together some of those divisions, Chris. I don't think it's out, or they've been doing charrettes around it, and I know that's been discussed in workshops and everything, so.
Thank you, Fran, for that insight. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, John. You want to move on? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yep. So now we have the Washington update.
Hi all. We wanted to give a bit of an update on the Washington cycle track. For those who might not be familiar, there are plans to do a Washington cycle track on Washington Street from about Sinclair in the north all the way down to Alisana. And we wanted to give an update on this. Since the last MBAC in July, we have kicked off the project with our consultant. and they have started the process of doing a signing inventory. And they've also produced a handful of renderings, which you can see on the right side there, on Washington between Lafayette Ave and North, and then on Washington between Fleet Street and Eastern, just to give a sense of what it might look like. We are at 30%, but we are moving forward to completing 100% designs on these. So that's kind of our next phase of this project. And we did want to give an update that we'll be updating the Streets of Baltimore page soon with an FAQ. And so encourage all of those interested in following this project to sign up on that page. And I'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat as well.
I think we have a question. Kurt. Had his hand raised.
So I got off mute. All right. I think I was muted there, but when we start construction, if you have the 100% design, would it be 26?
We're working on getting to 100% design. So we only have 30% right now, and we'll be updating the schedule so we can have a good answer for you, Kurt, in the coming months.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
We also wanted to give an update on the Big Jump Phase 2, which is the semi-permanent phase of the Big Jump. At this point, we are in the process of completing a study that assesses 2 different semi-permanent designs for the Big Jump. The Big Jump is located right below Druid Hill Park on Druid Park Lake Drive. Getting all those words in the right order always screws me up. And we're considering 2 different options there. 1, replacing water-filled barriers with concrete barriers, and 2, constructing a side path. So we're in the process of still completing that study right now. I did want to note a couple of things that are happening right now on Druid Park Lake Drive, which is that some crews have installed new ADA ramps along this portion in October, which is great. And there is currently resurfacing happening as we speak, and it is estimated to be completed in November. And then again, just for the big picture, bird's eye view on this project, this section will be redesigned as part of the larger Reconnecting Communities project, which includes this area.
Any questions on that one?
Would the side path replace the travel lane? No. The side path option that we're looking at would expand the existing sidewalk that runs along this portion. Jed?
Thanks. I think that, just to be clear, the purpose of the Big Jump was the road diet to reduce crossing distances. And so if that were to be pursued, that would be counter the goal of the project, and there'd be a lot of community opposition to that, like extreme community opposition to that. It's frankly concerning it's even being considered.
Thanks, Jed. We are currently having conversations with council people about some of the early designs. This is one of the options for the temporary hardening as we work towards the Reconnecting Communities grant that addresses the Druid Hill Park portion. So your comments noted. This is not the only plan that we'll be providing, and there will be further engagement before we make any decisions.
Thanks. I just encourage, if people haven't read the final engagement report for the Big Jump evaluation and the WSP report, it does have significant community engagement showing like 75 to 80% support for a 1-lane option in both directions. And we're already restoring to 2 lanes in one direction and 1 in the other. So if we go back to 2 lanes in both directions, like I said, it's going to be very bad.
Noted. Thanks, Jed.
And I think we have one more question about Washington Street. May, if you want to.
For the Washington Street cycle track, are the bollards shown in the rendering photos going to be made of plastic or metal? Thanks, Jeffrey. we are still exploring the options for the materials that will be used. We had done some engagement on that topic earlier this fall, and we'll be probably doing additional engagement to get feedback on materials moving forward. Another update we wanted to give was on Bush Street. As I understand it, at the last commission, there was an update for a request for DOT to provide an update on Bush Street. So we wanted to include that in this presentation today. And the update at this point is that DOT is currently reviewing projects, including Bush Street, as part of our CIP budgeting process. And we are finalizing the project selection for FY25. So we should have more information about this particular project at the next MBAC meeting in January.
Okay, no questions. Going to move forward. Oh, we do have a question.
Yes, I do have a question. Ellen Worthing again. What I wasn't hearing through all of this was Sharp Street through Otterbein. I noticed everybody's gone really quiet about this, and I just want to make a comment, is that this particular project, which seems to have gone dormant through the Baltimore DOT, this was the bone to pick that got rid of Eric Costello, who lost his council race by 46 votes. We're not happy about this. Is this thing going to be resurrected, or do we need to put more pressure on the DOT and the council to do something?
Alan, that's a great question. This is Sean Burnett. So we are currently working through our project backlog to create some prioritizations to look at funding that we've established and have yet to spend down. We are working towards the creation of our FY25 work plan, which will be publicly shared. So at this point in time, while I don't have a direct answer about Sharp Street, what I can tell you is that all projects are being considered. All projects are being considered active until we finalize that down to a number of projects that we believe that we can follow through with in the next calendar year. So those answers are forthcoming. As for Sharp in the exact project, I would have to look through our project tracker, so I can follow up with you personally. I'll put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out directly, and I can try and update you on that project, okay?
Well, another project that has also gone dormant seems to be Winds Falls Parkway. I mean, these two are sort of going hand in hand. They get a little pushback, and then we just stop talking about it.
Was that a quick? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what's going on with that one too.
Yeah, so that's also all of these projects are being considered for our work plan. The Gwynns Falls project and the Greater Green Trails Network are all from similar funding sources. So all of those, if you email me, I can look at our project tracker and I can keep you updated as we go through our project selection process.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a question for Sean, is there any opportunity for involvement in the CIP process? And what identifications for complete streets, bike facilities, are being considered in the CIP?
That's a great question. So just to make everyone aware, this is, what do we think, guys? Week 4, week 5 for me. So there are certainly some questions that I won't be able to answer yet. As for opportunities for involvement, there will be some public posting about what we plan to do this year, in what format, at what time those things will be posted. Still has to be worked out internally. However, I think that we're going to have a lot of good news for everybody as me and my new team get a little more comfortable. But we are working very, very hard to try and create a more transparent process when it comes to not just bike projects, but a lot of the DOT planning process. And we'll have some more news soon.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to the Baltimore Greenway Trails updates. I think we have Nick Chupin talk about the Norfolk Southern portion.
Yeah, my name is Nick Shupin. I work with the Department of Planning. I'm the Greenway Trails planner. I work with Ethan and May and Sean and all the folks at the DOT Planning Department on the Greenway Trails overall. Two areas that are sort of in my department are in East Baltimore, the Norfolk Southern corridor. It's a abandoned corridor from Brewers Hill up through and we are for out here trying to acquire that from Norfolk Southern for this purpose. So it's a long, slow process. Working with the railroads is generally very slow. We have been in a fundraising sort of mode for the past year plus. We have some funds in place from both state and federal sources. Recently, we were awarded not awarded, but selected to be a participant in the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Program. That's through the National Park Service, a grant that I applied for, and we were selected to move ahead. So it's a two-part process. We're hoping to get a grant award in the fall of 2025, as long as we follow that process, and that will add significant funds towards acquisition. We're working on other grant applications to sort of build the war chest to make that acquisition. In the meantime, we got a categorical exclusion through the NEPA process earlier in the year and have gotten some appraisals done, and those are being reviewed internally. Just north of that area from Federal Street, following the BGE utility corridor, which is like overhead power line corridor, that will connect all the way up to Herring Run Park. We are sort of in the early stages of design for that. We were awarded a Bikeways grant from MDOT just the other week, and are going to be working on advancing design for that trail as well. So that's where things stand in East Baltimore. Slowly but surely, we're trying to make things happen.
Nick, question from Chris, CCA.
Hey, so that section there is kind of what I was asking about before. It's kind of like muddy as to where y'all are trying to put the trail. Last October, I think it was, we did the Rails to Trails ride on a Saturday, and the ride lead didn't even know where he was going or how to get there.
So
I helped him just kind of guess.
At the north end of BGE, it connects to the Herring Run Trail south of Sinclair. North of Sinclair,
by Shannon Drive.
Yeah, it's not well marked south of Sinclair. So Tim, our trails manager, was on the call earlier. We'll work with him and try to get resolution on sort of clearing that path, and I'll go down there and take a look as well. So we'll be working on that next month.
That's not an easement that y'all have cleared with BGE yet, though? Like, technically, you shouldn't ride on it even if it were cleared?
Technically, no. We're working on a trail license agreement that would make that official, but right.
The part that was like really confusing, I think, was you can see the BGE right away from Erdman Avenue, like you're standing on Erdman Avenue, the part that you're talking about. So I understand that, and then it goes up next to Shannon Drive behind Oliver or whatever. But south of Erdman Avenue, I have no idea where the trail is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be an on-street trail there.
It doesn't exist as of yet.
Okay.
So that's something we'll have to determine through the process of design and engineering, and that's a ways away.
Okay, so you guys just don't even have an idea or an inkling of where that's going to be at this point.
We have a few ideas. Macon Street, Federal Street. There's a culvert that gets across the tracks using Federal Street to get over to this Norfolk Southern corridor. There's a few options, and we just need to sort of do the design and engineering process to figure out which one is going to work the best.
And then one more question that's extremely relevant to our area, and people ask me frequently. If you follow the existing portion that was built along the backside of the apartments by Haven Street, down by Boston Street, under the O'Donnell Street underpass, if you follow the logical curvature to that, it looks like it would cut right through the Monument Supply Company, like their yard where they store their trucks and stuff like that. So in my mind, the only way that this would work is if they essentially moved out of that building and found another place to operate out of.
Yeah, we
Because
have
their yard would have to be open all the time.
we have an alternate route to get to from Haven Street over to the corridor. I can't exactly talk about how that's going to work just because it's sort of in development, but there is a plan with the development that's in pre-development phase in that spot that'll help us get across that spot there. So
okay. And then one small thing that's not entirely relevant to that, but kind of is, by Raw and Refined on the promenade, there is still signage up that says that you're not allowed to ride a bike on there. That should have been taken down 7 years ago. I've been yelled at before by people walking on there, and they point to the sign. But it'd be great if we could get them or Dot or somebody to come and remove that signage or update the signage. Because most of the other signage along the promenade correctly identifies it as part of the bicycle network.
Can you tell me the location one more time?
It's by the where Bo Brooks used to be, between Bayside Cantina and Raw and Refined. There's some like signage that was put up by the private property owner, basically on the easement, that says you're not allowed to ride bikes on there. It's probably 15 years old or something. It's pretty faded, but so it would be south of like maybe Kenwood, I would say. John probably knows where I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can probably help Nick out as well.
We'll try to find it, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. I think there was a hand raise from East Coast Greenway.
Yeah, I just wanted to check if there's any coordination already going on about the PG&E corridor going out into Baltimore County. I think this might be on the map that is being proposed for the regional bike network that Charlene had before. Just any of those kind of county city connections, making sure that that's taken advantage of when PG&E is already in discussion.
Yeah, so it's on our radar. I'm on the committee. I'm on the steering committee for the regional plan, and I've made sure that that's included in terms of regional connections. In terms of actually like pushing forward a design or getting an easement or a license agreement on that property, we're not working on that yet. It's just a little bit of a lower priority when we have so many projects on our plates and balls in the air. So, but it is on our radar. It's something that we want to see happen in the long term.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move forward. We have
Hey, John,
Ethan on
John, I had a question there, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry. Does anyone know the status of our earmarks and state grants? So I know we had like the congressional earmarks, and we also had the state budget surplus grant that we got like 2 years ago. And I was just wondering if there's like a status update on any of those. And then I'd also, just to Chris's point, I think I've sent DOT a couple times, like geolocated promenade signs that are still up. So if I still have that, I'm happy to send that along to you guys just to make your lives easier on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. For the funding part, as I mentioned, yeah, we're working on a number of sources. The federal earmark is intended explicitly for this acquisition. We have an MOU with the State Highway Administration, who's facilitating that grant from the federal government, and we're basically getting ready to be in a position where we can make an offer on that property and start pulling down that money. The state capital grant we are going to be working here in the next couple of months on executing a grant agreement with the state to get that money sort of lined up as well. So all of these things will be we'll work them into the budget for the coming year, because that's sort of when we want to start taking action on this project.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Sure thing.
Okay. Ethan, you can go ahead. I think there's a question that also coincides with your PowerPoint too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does dovetail a little bit with Nick's, but we can tackle that together. So for the Boston Street Connector, this project had been paused for some time due to a potential geographic alignment conflict with the red line and related to parking also. But since I joined in August, we had been on pause. I think I had presented a little bit to Brewers Hill, just letting them know the project it's not stopped, it's just on pause. Well, recently, just this month, we were informed by MTA that we can proceed with design work. We have some maybe site-specific questions to iron out with MTA and with the Red Line project team, but they determined there should be no major geographic conflicts between any proposed Red Line alignments. That's something I should stress. There are still 3 alignments on the table for that light rail project, but we are working with our consultant to resume design, and we are scheduled to be presenting in Canton midway through next month. So you all can expect more news about that soon. We can pause. There's questions about that. Nick, did you want to address anything related to the Norfolk Southern line and the right of way from, I believe it was Jeffrey?
Yeah, I put in the chat, but we're working with the Red Line team, and we see no issues with the Red Line and the Greenway Trails coexisting in this part of town. So that's about it.
Similar story down on Boston Street, we've been told.
Okay.
All right.
Moving forward here. I think this was you again, Ethan.
Sure. We are so as I think Kate had called out, we were awarded TAP funding from FHWA through MDOT to complete design on the rest of the northern segments from Druid Hill Park to Lake Montebello for the Greenway Trail. So we are in the process of moving that forward. And relatedly, we are applying for we're developing a grant application working with our partner Kate and Rails to Trails to apply for construction funding through the EPA's Community Change Grant process. So that is under development.
Any questions there? Okay.
The other one of my Greenway Trail Network projects is proceeding with a long stalled project, the Middle Branch to Inner Harbor segment of the network that is designed to connect our casino and entertainment district to the Inner Harbor, where we have existing separated and off-street trail infrastructure. So we are finalizing a scope of work with our consultant with WRA to pick back up on some of the work that had been completed some years back, and we are working with SHA on an accelerated timeline to stay in the terms of our grant agreement and secure the necessary agency approvals to advance designs to 100%. And we'll also be looking for sources for construction funding to complete this 0.8 mile segment. If you're not familiar with the geography, it's kind of a 2-part segment that starts on Warner Street, connects to Solo Gibbs Park, and then works its way through Sharp Leadenhall and Otterbein over to Key Highway. So I think you can expect more news by the next quarterly meeting that we'll be having.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. I think we have one question from Ellen.
Yes. There was a news article a few months ago about how we've got federal funding to add a, or to at least study having a bike lane over the Hanover Street Bridge. How can we connect these two projects? Because, the Hanover Street Bridge is right in that area. What are we doing to move all of this along?
So that's a good one for me as manager of our RAISE grant agreement. So we did win $15.5 million in RAISE grant funding. BCDOT did mid 2024. We're executing our grant agreement. That's for a complete streets study in NEPA. Also would complete NEPA for, I think it's a 2-mile corridor of Hanover Street, extending from near 95 and the South Baltimore Peninsula down to the Anne Arundel County line. What you will see evolve over time, lots of patience and diligent work with us and our community partners, is a network that does connect. You see, this is kind of the tip of the middle branch, that south section limit that you see, and South Baltimore Gateway is hard at work on their own middle branch path plan, and all of this will network together. That complete streets corridor redesign of Hanover, the South Baltimore Gateway plans in this section. So it is designed with networking in mind.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I think Sean wanted to jump in there too.
No, I think Ethan did a good job. I think we just want to, the only thing that I would express is that obviously we want all of our pieces of the infrastructure to connect. The only question is when we can phase them in. We have a lot of projects that need to be done. We want to make sure that these projects connect to each other. We can't pledge to a specific date of construction and at this time, I don't believe we've started the planning efforts, but we have done some preliminary work. It is on our long list. We do want these pieces of the network to connect to each other.
Yeah, and a question from Jed here on this topic. Is there any update to the work on Hanover Street by Alta Fed Hill? The street was redesigned to add turn lanes, but was instead required to add bike infrastructure under ordinance.
Yeah, we don't have any direct updates to that right now, but Jed, you can feel free to email me directly and I will absolutely hunt that down for you.
Okay. All right. That seems to be it. So we can kind of open the floor for questions and more further conversation.
So I see that Kurt has his hand up first. So we're going to go run with Kurt and then we'll move to our next question.
All right. Thanks for everything you guys are doing. I really appreciate that. I do want to go back to the Washington bike lane for a moment. It's not the bike lane itself, but there's two intersections on northbound Washington Street at Lombard and at Pratt Street where there are existing traffic signals. And back in 2021, I've put in 311s and they're still open today. And I've discussed things with Shana Rose and Ethan Hasek from Cohen's office and another gentleman from DOT. But it seems like they're sort of saying now we want to wait for the bike lane to put in pedestrian traffic signals to make it safer for pedestrians on that heavily used corridor from our neighborhoods to Patterson Park. But now it sounds like we're going to be years away before anything happens. Is there any way DOT can see to make it safer at these intersections by looking at pedestrian signals at those two traffic lights at Washington and Pratt and in Washington and Lombard?
Thanks for that question, Mr. Scheller. This is Sean Burnett. So obviously we want to promote the safest environment possible for every intersection. Understanding that we're not the traffic division, so some of these choices are specific to traffic. They maintain the signalization equipment and the operative resources to install them and maintain them. I can certainly look internally. If you want to send me a direct email, I can loop in our traffic chief. However, I will say that as part of this project, signal modifications will be required. It's part of the reason, frankly, why maybe this project has had such a long lead time. However, with the 30% plans, bringing it to 100% plans, those 100% plans will include signal modifications and bringing them up to our city standards, which would include pedestrian or, in some cases, if warranted, bike-specific signal heads. Okay?
Okay, is your email sean.burnett@baltimorecity.gov?
Yes, sir. It's in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
And our second question was from Daniel Paschal.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, just speaking on behalf of East Coast Greenway Alliance. So I'm the Mid-Atlantic manager for the Greenway. And I talked to somebody at Rec and Parks a couple of years ago and followed up a couple of times, but I know there's a lot going on and specifically around signage. So this would be sort of a follow-up off this call, but wanted to know sort of who's the best contact to reach out to around updating East Coast Greenway signs. I know they are very outdated and would love to help get some fresh ones there and yeah, work with you all on that.
That's a great question. I think we can start in my shop and then feel free to email me directly with your questions, and I can try and matriculate that through the people who need and are responsible for the updating of those things. Signage is always a 50-50. Sometimes it's us, sometimes it's private ownership, sometimes it's the state. So we'll have to make those designations, but we can all absolutely update those signs that we can.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I'll reach out to you, Sean, and putting in the chat also, if anyone's interested in the Greenway in Baltimore, but also across the state of Maryland, we have a virtual meeting coming up in December with some updates just about the trail. Can't get to everything because we're trying to go across the whole state in an hour, but definitely want to provide lots of updates if people are interested. Very exciting news, coming with some trail connections, obviously in Baltimore you've seen today, but also outside of the city. Baltimore to DC is actually getting pretty close once the WBNA bridge over the Patuxent is completed. So I'll put that there. Thank you.
I also see that Chris has his hand up.
Hey, this is relative mostly to Wolf and Washington project. One thing that I think would be great for the next time we have a public meeting is to maybe have a board that provides some options for the barriers that you guys are looking into. So you can get some public input as to what would work well. The rubber parking bumpers that we have used in some instances, like on Hartford Road and stuff like that, and 28th Street, really do not hold up well to cars driving over them. So it'd be nice if we could at least get concrete options of those, or if some of the specialty manufacturers have some type of product that maybe we haven't actually used before here, that would be a lot more durable in this instance before we get too far into the project and it just ends up ripped up and destroyed within a year like a lot of the other projects.
Thanks, Chris. We can definitely look into that. I will say that the materials utilized currently are materials utilized, because the majority of our construction is quick build. That's how we kind of work it through engineering historically, with the idea of moving them to more permanent structures over time. We also we use flex post and those sorts of things because those are the materials that we have in stock. So those keep the prices down, which allow us to build more of these projects. However, I do hear you, and I think that we've heard others who have similar concerns or similar wants. And so what I can say is that is something that we are absolutely looking into. We are very interested in seeing some of our beloved cycle tracks be hardscaped or at least a little more permanent seeming. And so while I can't share exactly where we are in the process right now, it is something that we are working towards. Okay, so I think I don't see any more questions. So I do see
there was
Jed.
one from Jed. Yeah.
All right, Jed, you're going to close us out. Your last
Cool.
one.
I just one of the reasons we are in Milwaukee is we are looking at their rapid enhancement program here, where they are hardening a number of their bike lanes with concrete with pin and pour. And I'm excited to bring information and lessons back from Milwaukee, who have determined it is actually cheaper to do this than the flex posts and striping. And so, yeah, very excited to bring the knowledge learned here back to our DOT.
Awesome. My inbox is open, and I can't wait to receive some of these, what I'm sure are very exciting concrete specs. Okay, cool. So with that, I think we're going to close us out. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We will see you in, Jed, is that another hand or is that an existing hand?
My bad.
So we will see you guys next year. Have a great week. And don't forget to vote.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. This
Thank you
meeting
so
is now done. We'll stop
See you
recording.
later.